Have you ever wondered what life would feel like if nothing could get to you? Emotional mastery is built, not born. No one comes into this world perfectly calm, immune to criticism, or naturally unbothered by the storms of life. That state of grace, the kind that lets you sit in chaos without being pulled under, is earned through fire. It's the result of choice after choice, day after day, in moments when everything in you wants to scream, react, explode, or collapse. Emotional mastery is not inherited, it's constructed. And every time you think you're failing, every time you catch yourself triggered or broken open, you are not regressing. You're standing inside the gym where this mastery is forged. People often mistake emotional control for detachment or coldness, but emotional mastery doesn't mean you feel less. It means you feel everything, but you choose what gets to move you. It's the space between stimulus and response, the breath you take before you decide how you show up, not how the world forces you to behave. Emotional mastery is the art of not allowing external noise to rearrange your internal peace. It is refusing to allow someone else's immaturity, rudeness, betrayal, or chaos to become your identity or dictate your reaction. This is not easy. It is a conscious practice, one that begins with deep awareness. You begin to notice your triggers, your reactions, the tension rising in your body before words ever leave your mouth. You start to ask yourself hard questions in real time. Why am I feeling this? What's underneath my anger? Is this about them, or is it about something I haven't healed? Emotional mastery demands a level of honesty that most people run from because it asks you to stop blaming. It asks you to stop outsourcing your peace and start owning your power. You cannot master emotions you deny. And you cannot transcend reactions you keep justifying. Mastery is facing the truth about yourself without self-hate. It's noticing the places where your wounds still speak louder than your wisdom and choosing to grow instead of defend. It's choosing the high road not because it's easy, but because the low road always leaves you with less dignity than you deserve. The most emotionally disciplined people didn't get that way by being lucky. They got there because they refused to let their emotions run wild without accountability. It's easy to let your anger speak for you. It's easy to let sadness become self-pity or to let bitterness leak into your tone. But what's easy is rarely empowering. Mastery is about learning to stand in the storm and remain unmoved, not numb, not passive, but unshaken. It's about not needing to prove your point in every argument. It's about not reacting to every insult. It's about walking away without guilt when protecting your peace feels like betrayal to someone else's chaos. It's knowing that your emotions are valid but not always wise. And that real freedom is the ability to feel without becoming enslaved to what you feel. This is a discipline that's sharpened through life's trials. Every heartbreak, betrayal, disappointment, and rejection, these are the training grounds. The people who push your buttons the most, they are your best teachers, because mastery isn't about escaping life's difficulties. It's about becoming the kind of person who cannot be thrown off course by them. You learn to pause, you learn to breathe, you learn to choose your reaction, not be dragged by it. You stop reacting for approval. You stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. Mastery doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you won't slip. It means that even when you slip, you recover faster, you learn quicker, you become stronger, you get tired of your own patterns and start to rewrite the script. You realize that self-respect tastes better than revenge, that silence can scream louder than words, and that your peace is too expensive to hand out to anyone willing to disturb it. Eventually, your triggers become teachers. Your pain becomes precision, your stillness becomes your strength. You don't chase peace anymore because you are peace. And when someone asks how you stay so calm, how nothing seems to get to you, you'll smile. Not because you've never been angry, but because you've built something unshakable inside yourself, and no one can take from you what you've trained to protect. Emotional mastery was never about having it all together. It was always about learning to stay rooted when the world around you is pulling at your branches, and that kind of power, you earn it, you build it. Every single day, reactions are rented out. That's the truth most people never pause to consider. Every time someone gets under your skin, every time you lose your calm or spiral into anger, frustration, or insecurity, what you're really doing is handing over the keys to your emotional space. You've leased it out, often without realizing it, to people who have no business being in control of your internal world, and the more often you react, the more space they occupy. The more they occupy, the less of you remains in charge of your peace. That's the trap of being reactive. It turns your emotional life into public property. You don't owe your energy to everyone who provokes you. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. But when you're not aware, you respond automatically. You give away parts of yourself, piece by piece, until you barely recognize who's steering the wheel, and it always starts small. A sharp comment, a judgmental look, someone brushing past you without respect. But suddenly, you're not just bothered, you're emotionally hijacked, your day is ruined, your thoughts are consumed, and your peace has been sold for pennies. That's the cost of reaction. The most dangerous thing about reactions is how easily they bypass your awareness. They slip through your boundaries disguised as normal. They feel justified. They sound like they disrespected me, or I had to say something. But when you zoom out, you realize something unsettling. Your emotions have become a vending machine. Push the right button, and out comes your response. And if anyone can push it, then anyone can own you. That's not strength. That's not power. That's slavery dressed as self-expression. You don't have to be emotionally available to every situation. Not everything deserves a response. Not everyone deserves access to your emotions. Just because something is happening doesn't mean it must be absorbed. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean they should be heard. Some people speak only to provoke, not to connect, and when you react, they win, not because they're right, but because they took up space in your mind that should have been yours to guard. Reactions are energy, and energy is expensive. Every reaction has a cost. The more you spend on people who drain you, the less you have left for what nourishes you. You can't build peace while constantly defending yourself. You can't grow in clarity while being pulled into emotional noise. And you can't rise higher if every petty jab or opinion forces you to look back. Mastery begins when you realize that not reacting isn't silence, it's strategy. It's not weakness, it's control. It's choosing yourself over their chaos. It's stepping away not because you're scared, but because your peace is worth more than their validation. There's no power in letting everyone have access to your emotional buttons. There's no pride in being easily provoked. You can stand in a storm and still be calm. You can be deeply feeling and still be deeply controlled. The key is ownership. You stop renting out your reactions the moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim of other people's behavior. You are not what they did to you. You are not how they treat you. You are what you choose to respond to. That's where the shift begins. When you start guarding your reactions, the world begins to change. Not because the world itself changes, but because you do. You stop chasing apologies you'll never get. You stop proving yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop being emotionally accessible to anyone who wants to use your spirit as a playground. You build emotional fences. You choose silence when it speaks louder than your voice. You walk away not to escape, but to protect. And suddenly, you realize something powerful. Your peace was never gone. You were just too busy leasing it out to people who didn't deserve the space. Every time you feel the pull to react, pause, breathe, ask yourself, does this deserve to occupy me? Does this moment get to rewrite my mood, my day, my identity? And if the answer is no, choose differently. Protect your space like it's sacred, because it is. Your reactions are not for rent, not anymore. Silence is strategy, not surrender. It is not weakness to withhold your reaction. It is not cowardice to walk away. It is not passivity to choose calm over confrontation. The world teaches you to speak up, fight back, prove your point, and assert your presence in every space, but wisdom often whispers what ego cannot hear. You don't need to react to win. Sometimes silence is the sharpest sword. It cuts through noise, disarms chaos, and protects what truly matters, your inner peace. There is a kind of silence that isn't born from fear, but from mastery. A silence that doesn't hide but holds power. A silence that says, I know who I am, and I do not need to explain it to you. When you reach this place, you stop being pulled into meaningless battles. You stop justifying your actions to people who don't even listen. You stop trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. because silence doesn't always need to be broken. Some things speak louder when nothing is said. In the moments when your emotions rise, when anger burns through your chest and the urge to speak is almost uncontrollable, silence becomes a tool, not a cage. It is restraint, not repression. It is choice, not defeat. It is the ability to feel everything, but not let everything be seen or heard. That's power, that's control, and that's exactly what most people don't expect, because the world is loud, the world is reactive. The world assumes silence is submission, but you're not submitting, you're watching, you're learning, you're deciding what deserves your voice and what doesn't even deserve your attention. There's strategy in the way you hold your energy. Not everyone should be given the privilege of your response. Not every insult deserves a reply. Not every challenge deserves your presence. Some people provoke you just to pull you out of character, and when you engage, they win. But when you choose silence, when you let them project, rage, or mock without giving them your emotional currency, you remain in control. You stay seated in your own power while they drown in their own noise. Silence also creates space for clarity, for reflection, for perspective. Words spoken in anger are rarely wise. Reactions born from ego rarely build anything lasting. But when you stay silent, you allow yourself to understand rather than defend. You give yourself the gift of distance from impulse, distance from escalation, distance from regret. Because once words are out, they can't be taken back, but silence holds the room. Silence keeps you clean when the situation is dirty. People often confuse loudness with strength, but real strength is quiet. It doesn't need applause, it doesn't need agreement, it doesn't even need to be seen. Real strength is knowing you can speak, but choosing not to, because you've already outgrown the need to prove yourself. That's not surrender, that's evolution, that's discipline. And in a world that celebrates noise, your silence becomes a rebellion. A declaration, a boundary. The most grounded people aren't the ones who dominate the conversation. They're the ones who sit with full presence and say nothing until it's necessary, because they understand that timing is everything. That emotional intelligence is not about always having the last word, but knowing when no words are needed. They understand that power is not in volume, but in restraint, in choosing your moment, in letting silence do the work that sound cannot. This is not about avoiding conflict. It's about mastering response. It's about protecting your energy from situations that only seek to deplete you. When your silence is rooted in self-respect, it's no longer avoidance, it's elevation. You rise above not because you're scared to fight, but because you've learned that some fights cost too much. They cost your peace, your dignity, your time, and silence saves you from wasting all three. So the next time you're tempted to speak, pause. The next time someone tries to draw you into chaos, pause. The next time your ego screams for validation, pause. Then ask yourself, is this worth my voice? Is this situation worthy of my presence? If not, let silence speak for you, because silence, when used with wisdom, says everything that needs to be said, and sometimes the loudest message you can send is none at all. People don't trigger you, your permission does. That might be hard to accept at first, especially when someone says something cruel, dismissive, or completely out of line. It feels personal, it feels justified to react. It feels natural to be upset. But that reaction, that emotional spiral, that inner disturbance, it wasn't created by them alone. It was activated by something in you that allowed it to matter. That's the quiet truth most people never confront. No one can truly upset you without your internal consent. It's not about blaming yourself for how people treat you. It's about owning your power in how you respond. The moment you understand that your triggers are reflections of unhealed places or unchecked boundaries, you begin to reclaim something powerful, control, because triggers are not just random buttons people press. They are invitations to look inward. They're not about them. They're about you, your history, your pain, your beliefs, your fears. Someone might say something offensive, but whether that offense breaks you or rolls off you depends entirely on what you've chosen to give weight to. You've probably met people who remain calm in situations that would send others into rage or tears. You've probably watched someone brush off the kind of insult that would have consumed your whole day. That difference isn't luck, it's self-awareness, it's inner work, It's boundaries. It's the understanding that emotional peace doesn't come from controlling other people's behavior. It comes from mastering what you allow to enter your mental and emotional space. If someone throws an insult and it sticks, ask yourself, why did that find a home in me? Why did I let that shape my mood, my energy, my sense of self? People can only trigger what's already vulnerable. If a stranger questions your worth and you shatter, it's not because they discovered something new. It's because there was a crack already there. Your job is to seal the cracks, not silence the world. Because the world won't stop being loud. People won't stop being inconsiderate, rude, or thoughtless. But your reactions, your emotional state, that's yours to command. Every time you say, they made me feel this way, you surrender a piece of your power. Every time you say, I decided how to respond, you take that power back. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It means you understand them, you examine them, you don't blame others for what you feel. You become curious about why you feel it. That pause, that ownership, that inquiry, that's emotional maturity, that's strength. You begin to see that people's words are often projections of their own pain, their own insecurities, their own noise. And if you absorb it, if you let it live in you, it's because somewhere deep down, you agreed to carry something that wasn't even yours. Permission is subtle. It doesn't always sound like agreement. Sometimes it's the silence when you should have set a boundary. Sometimes it's the way you replay someone's words in your mind all day long. Sometimes it's the way you allow toxic patterns because you fear conflict more than you value peace. But when you stop giving that permission, when you say no without apology, when you walk away without explanation, when you refuse to let someone's tone dictate your emotional climate, everything changes. You stop being emotionally available to chaos. You stop giving your attention to people who haven't earned it. You stop defending yourself to those who are only interested in misunderstanding you. And that's when you realize you were never powerless. You were simply distracted, too focused on managing other people instead of mastering yourself. The greatest freedom is not in changing the world around you, but in no longer needing it to behave a certain way for you to feel whole. People will continue to do what they do. They will test you, they will push you, they will misunderstand you, but whether they trigger you or not, that will always come down to one thing: what you've permitted, what you've healed, what you've let go. Your peace is not built on their behavior. It's built on your boundaries. The day you stop giving permission is the day you start living from a place of real emotional authority. And no one can take that from you, not unless you hand it to them. Peace is a decision, not a destination. It's not something you arrive at once life becomes easier, quieter, or more predictable. It's not waiting for you at the end of some perfect day or after the right person enters your life. Peace isn't the result of circumstances aligning. It's a choice made over and over again in the midst of imperfection, in the heart of the storm, in the loud and unfiltered chaos of everyday living. Most people treat peace like it's external, like something they have to chase, earn, or beg for. But the truth is, it's internal. It's cultivated, protected, and chosen, often in moments that seem to deserve the opposite. You don't wait for the world to calm down to feel calm within yourself. If you do, you'll be waiting forever. Life doesn't hand out peace in clean packages. It gives you people who test your patience, moments that challenge your values, and losses that stretch your strength. And it's right there, in the thick of it, that peace reveals itself, not as a reward, but as a response. You respond with peace when everything in you wants to respond with fear, anger, or resistance. You choose to be grounded when your emotions beg for chaos. That's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it real. You don't need silence around you to have silence within. You don't need everyone's approval to feel worthy. You don't need full control of every situation to walk through it with grace. What you need is the discipline to pause, to breathe, and to hold your center even when it feels like everything around you is trying to pull you away from it. Peace is not passive, it's not fragile. It's not weak. Peace is one of the strongest choices a person can make in a world that constantly provokes the opposite. Sometimes peace looks like not replying to that message. Sometimes it looks like walking away from the argument. Sometimes it's saying no, not because you don't care, but because you care too much about your mental clarity to let someone else's dysfunction become your responsibility. Peace isn't always soft, sometimes it's firm. It's setting boundaries, even when people don't like them. It's protecting your space without guilt. It's choosing not to entertain every invitation to chaos that shows up disguised as urgency or obligation. People often say, "I just want peace," as if it's something they'll stumble upon once the noise dies down. But peace isn't found, it's made. You make it when you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You make it when you forgive, not for them, but for you. You make it when you stop letting your past define your present, when you stop allowing temporary emotions to build permanent damage. Peace is a mindset, not a moment. It's what you practice when no one's watching, what you return to when the world gets loud. And yes, it takes work, because choosing peace often goes against what your ego wants. Your ego wants to be right, to be heard, to win. Peace doesn't always look like winning on the outside, but it feels like freedom on the inside. And eventually, you learn that not every battle is worth fighting. Not every opinion needs your defense. Not every insult requires a counterattack. The real flex is being unshaken in a room full of noise. The real win is keeping your character when others lose theirs. That's not avoidance, that's wisdom. Peace is also knowing that you don't have to control everything to feel safe. Control is the illusion that gives anxiety its fuel. But peace is trust. Trust that what's meant for you will find you. Trust that not all problems need solving right now. Trust that your presence is stronger than any pressure the world throws at you. When you operate from peace, you operate from power. Not the loud, forceful kind, but the quiet, grounded kind that doesn't waver when tested. And the beauty is, peace is always available. It's not waiting around the corner. It's waiting in your next choice, the next breath you take, the next time you decide not to react, not to rush, not to doubt your worth. You don't need to earn it. You just need to claim it. Peace is not a place you reach. It's a way you walk through life. It's not a prize at the end of the road. It's how you move through every twist, every turn, every moment that dares you to forget who you are. Peace is a decision, and you get to make it every single day. Unbothered isn't passive. It's not apathy. It's not avoidance, and it's definitely not weakness. Being unbothered doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care selectively, intentionally, and with great discipline. It's the quiet authority that comes from no longer handing your emotional temperature over to every comment, every person, or every unpredictable situation. It's a powerful decision to stay rooted, to not react on impulse, and to protect your peace like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. People often misunderstand emotional control as indifference, as if not being reactive means you've numbed out or shut down, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The most unbothered people feel deeply. They just don't bleed everywhere. They've learned how to channel their emotions, how to recognize what deserves a response and what deserves silence. They aren't cold, they're composed, and that composure is not natural. It's trained, it's earned through experience, self-awareness, and the decision to no longer let life shake them like it used to. Being unbothered is a form of emotional intelligence. It's knowing the difference between what's urgent and what's important. It's realizing that not every conversation needs your voice, and not every disagreement needs your defense. It's the internal knowing that your value is not up for public debate, and your worth is not determined by how others treat you. When you're unbothered, you stop being emotionally available to nonsense. You no longer let temporary people create permanent damage in your headspace. This mindset takes work. It's not built in quiet moments of calm, but in the storms of chaos, conflict, and criticism. You don't become unbothered because life has been kind. You become unbothered because you've had to learn how to survive without falling apart. It's a muscle developed through disappointment, rejection, and unnecessary battles that left you empty. Eventually, you reach a point where you understand that peace is more valuable than being right, and silence is more powerful than a reaction. Unbothered is not inaction, it's intentional inaction. It's choosing not to respond when someone's words are designed to provoke. It's letting go of the need to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It's the inner confidence that says, I could respond, I could defend, I could clap back, but I choose not to because I no longer need to. That choice isn't passive. It's purpose-driven. It's the refusal to waste energy on what doesn't align with your growth, your peace, or your vision. There's a strength in restraint that most people overlook. Anyone can react. Anyone can argue. Anyone can be pulled into drama, but it takes someone truly centered to stay still in the middle of emotional chaos. It takes a high level of self-trust to not get swept away by gossip, insults, or other people's projections. You become a fortress, not because you're hiding behind walls, but because you've built boundaries that protect your spirit. Being unbothered also means you stop trying to control other people's opinions, reactions, or approval. You realize you can only control your own mindset, your own emotions, and your own behavior. That's where your power is, and when you stop giving that power away to every rude stranger, every insensitive friend, or every inconvenient situation, you start to feel something rare: freedom. Freedom from over-explaining, freedom from reacting out of ego, freedom from the pressure to be constantly understood. The unbothered version of you doesn't mean you never feel hurt, frustrated, or angry. It just means you've created space between what you feel and how you act. You no longer act on every emotion, and that's what makes you dangerous in the best way. You become unshakable. You stop being predictable. You stop being reactive, and in doing so, you step into the driver's seat of your own emotional life. People will try to poke at your silence. They'll assume your calm means weakness. They'll call it arrogance or detachment or being cold. Let them. What they're really witnessing is emotional control they don't understand yet. They're watching you walk away from the fire they expected you to burn in. They're watching you choose maturity over retaliation. And that will confuse them. Let it, because being unbothered is not passive, it's powerful. And not everyone is ready to understand the kind of power that doesn't need to shout.